Hello and welcome. This is gonna be a guide for Assassin Explosive Arrow character that I just made in Heist League 3.12. So actually I was about to quit the league because I played enough, and I mentioned it on my last video that it was probably my last build. But one of my friends really loves Explosive Arrow, and he was like he couldn't find any good builds on the YouTube, the guide section. There is like nothing, and also there is only like 2 people on the entire leaderboard right now, and one is like a totem build, something like that. I don't even know if that works or not. The other one was like something bad, yeah. So there was like nothing on the internet at all. So he was like, can you do that? And yeah, again, task is at my hands. But first of all, I want to say that this is my first time playing an Explosive Arrow build. I am playing, Path of Exile for like 4 years now, and I haven't tried it at all. I don't know why. I actually played lots of archer builds, but yeah. So if you know anything better to min-max this character, just share your opinions, please. Yeah, because maybe I made some mistakes, I'm not sure, but overall the build is very powerful. The map clear is insane, and the single target is respectable. The Conquerors dies in like 3 hits. It is a little challenging to kill bosses like Phoenix and what else? Hydra, because they move a lot. So anything that stands still dies very fast, but anything that moves takes some time, because you can easily miss your shots. So all those explosive arrows will go to Wolf, because you will miss the target, something like that. So anything that stays still dies in a second, and the other monsters can be a little challenge. So I didn't like that part of the skill, but overall very good skill, and for mapping, one of the best you can play actually. So yeah, let's start. So bow, this is the trickiest part, the most expensive piece in the build. I bought this for 15 or maybe 14 exiles, something like that. You can pick something cheaper. There are similar stuff for 10 exiles. Because crafting something like this is very hard, I didn't even bother it. So you should probably pay it. So the most important thing here is bow attacks fire 2 additional arrows. I'm going to talk about the arrow, explain it in a moment. So 2 arrows. If you cannot afford it, if it is cheaper, go for 1 arrow obviously, but get at least 1 arrow, yeah. And plus gems, there is also plus 2 bow gems, that is also very good. You can also search for that, and if it has space for multi-mode, just put that, and plus 2 support, obviously these kind of gem level builds, it is the best. And finally, fire damage as extra chaos, or maybe fire penetration with this weapon, that is also very good. And if it has maybe suffix open, you can also put attack speed or crit chance. So just search a bow with additional arrow and plus 1 gems or plus 2 bow gems, something like that, and try to find something decent. Just find something that you can at least use a multi-mode on it and craft the rest, something like that. So it shouldn't take you more than 15 exiles, yeah, because there are similar results on the market. So again, this is the most expensive piece that I'm using. Helmet. So I just wanted to search something with explosive arrow, with a Devoto, yeah, because Devoto is better for mapping on bow builds. I normally don't use Devoto, but I just tried to search one, and luckily I found this for only 1 exalt, because this doesn't mean that you can also find it. So if you can find it, if you like Devoto, go for it. If you actually want more boss DPS, you should use a Warlord base helmet, at least 85 item level, and craft nearby enemies have -9/5 resist. So that is the best for DPS actually. You want to buy an enchanted helmet. It doesn't have to be Warlord based, you can just use a Warlord Exalt and then craft that nearby -9 with alteration orbs. use a regular orb and multi-mode rest if you want. So alteration craft is probably the best choice. Or you can also use scorch fossils or that fire tag. That might also work. But I always craft with alteration because that is more efficient. So yeah. So let's say one last thing. If you want to map mostly with this build, because this build is very good. Yeah, you will probably see in the clips. Maybe you are watching it right now. The map clear is insane. So you can just take a Devoto without any enchant at all, and just go for it. Yeah, because Devoto is obviously better because it has movement speed. So Quiver. So I should probably explain that arrow stuff because this also has it. So actually you don't need additional arrow on your quiver. I didn't know that when I first started the build. Again, this is my first time playing explosive arrow. So actually you don't need this on your quiver, but something like this is 3 exiles only, not that expensive. So the other stats that you want, crit multiplier, life, elemental damage attacks, they are the best for the DPS. And the spike point quiver is probably the best because of the crit chance. But you can absolutely skip that additional arrow. So let's talk about that arrow count and why is that important. So explosive arrow. Right now my explosive arrow shoots 9 arrows with Dying Sun flask. So if I don't have a quiver like this, it will be 8. So explosive arrow can stack up to 20 arrows. So with quiver, if I cast it 2 times, it will be 18 stacks. So I still need a third cast to go over 20. Without the quiver, it will have 7. So it means no, not 7, 8. 8 arrows, and it will be 16. So still, again, I will need to cast it a third time to go over 20. So nothing will change. So unless you have a corrupted quiver with also an additional arrow, which will probably cost maybe 50 exalt, I'm not sure. Unless you have something like that, because that will make 10 arrows and you can explode the target with only 2 casts, because 10, again another 10, that will make 20. So unless you have something like that, or maybe you invested in flask effect somehow, I don't think that is possible on maybe assassin, but I'm not sure. So unless you can shoot 10 arrows at a time, this kind of quiver is completely useless, I believe. So if you know anything better, and just share your opinion so we can also learn. But yeah, you can probably skip this kind of quiver and just buy something regular. Crit multi, attack speed maybe, life, accuracy, elemental damage attacks. So that's about the arrow count. that was my observation. Again, I may be wrong, but it should be the case. Amulet. So because gem level is very important, I picked something with dexterity gems. You can also pick fire gems, or if you know any other better influence mode, go for it. Other good stats are obviously crit multiplier, resist if you can put it, and finally life. If you need intellect, this build needs a little intelligence. You can also put it on your rings, just only 1 ring by the way. So if you cannot get intellect on your amulet, just put that intellect on your rings, or maybe even fatal jewels. We are also using small clusters, so just figure that intellect, so don't forget that. So the anoint I am using on my amulet is Whispers of Doom. I actually use Assassin's Mark with also elemental weakness, so I have 2 curses. You just want that Assassin's Mark on your big bosses, you know, so that's why. If you don't want to bother with double curse, elemental weakness is automatically cast because I have it on my gloves, which I'm gonna explain soon. But if you don't want to bother using Assassin's Mark, you can also anoint Lava Lash. That is a very good option. So let's talk about rings. But thinking about also Assassin's Mark, you can also get an Assassin's Mark ring, Shaper based, but those are expensive most of the time. So you can also get something like that if you want, if you have the money, and again use a Whispers of Doom, or just cast it manually like I do, because you only want Assassin's Mark on big bosses, mostly Shaper Guardians, Elder Guardians, Conquerors, those kind of stuff. But obviously if you have it on your ring, it will also cast it on rare monsters that you are fighting in the map. So it can be good overall, but I didn't go for it because that is more expensive compared to what I am using. So the rings I am using, first let's talk about this one. It is very cheap. I bought this for maybe 40, 50 gas, something like that, probably. I just want to keep my resist and also put some element limited attacks, nothing special. Make sure you have your resists, life, those kind of stuff. So because I kept my resists, I only needed one last resist. So fractured items are very easy to find these days in Heist League, actually, at least. So if you can find fractured items, you can actually craft very easy rings. Not only ring, I use these kind of stuff on most of my builds these days. So fracture craft is very powerful and cheap. So you only want to get, so first of all, opal ring for more DPS because I am fine with resist. So if you are also, just go for opal ring and get a fracture one with something decent, something that you need. It can be a life, it can be intellect if you still need it, it can be a resist. I'm not sure what else. I'm not gonna say elemental limited attacks because I searched for it, it doesn't even exist. So yeah, if you can find it, go for it. But even if it exists, it will probably be a couple of exiles. So I went for light resist for only 10 chaos, I believe, and used Essence of Angers for that fire damage. And just try to get some life, elemental limited attack maybe, or put it on your bench, from bench. So try to craft something like this, or maybe even better. This cost me like 30 chaos overall, which doesn't even exist on the market. So yeah, if you know what you are doing, so if you know a little craft tricks, yeah, you can craft something like this easily. What else? So chest. So first of all, there is another option besides carcass check. So carcass check is better for mapping because it gives so much area of effect, and also area damage works obviously. Carcass checks are like 3 exiles right now, 6 linked, very cheap. So because that was very cheap, I bought something with maximum +1 maximum resistances for some defense. I paid like 5 exiles, I believe. You don't have to do that. If you have the money, go for it. Maybe you find something else even, or just buy a regular one, because this is for only defensive options. The other option is Farul Sphere. It is actually better for single target DPS. I actually considered it after I made the build, but it was too late for me because I had to keep my resists again. And also you want to put a speck of cat on one of your items. But for single target DPS, Farul is the best choice. So if you want more DPS, just go for Farul. Way better, because you are also gonna get frenzy charges. Frenzy charges give 4% more damage, so very powerful overall. So you can consider that. Gloves, Tomb Fist, 2-socket ones are very expensive, so just go for one because you want elemental weakness on it for that curse. This is only like 1 or 2 exalt, very cheap. Don't forget to put a murderous eye jewel to get that intimidate. I'm using something like this, life, attack speed, and corrupt blood immunity. That is very important on attack builds. So it doesn't have to be on this jewel. We also have jewel socket on our belt. So try to get a corrupt blood somewhere, don't forget that. But this has to be a murderous eye jewel on the Tomb Fist, because you want that intimidate. Intimidate gives 10% damage bonus to targets, so very good DPS overall. Belt, scheme wise, probably the best because you also have a socket there. So you just want life. If you want strength, that is also good. Let's see if I need strength. No, I actually don't need strength right now, so you can probably skip strength. Maybe you can get triple resist one. But the thing about hunter belts, you can only get, you know, a bonus life, that's it. This doesn't have to do anything with DPS. So I actually have a guide on how to craft something like this in my channel. So if you don't know it, just watch that, because buying something like this is a complete rip-off. Do not buy it. They are all scammers, because most people don't know how to craft these belts. There is actually a trick that you can get it, you can craft it on your own. So just watch the video and you will understand. So this is actually, obviously it is not cheap, but again, this is only for life. It doesn't have to do anything with DPS. So this is just to min-max your character. But it will be way cheaper if you craft it on your own. So just watch that video if you don't know how to do that, because it will be way cheaper. I always do this every league. Yeah. Boots. Tailwind for action speed, which means both attack speed and movement speed, all kind of stuff. You can actually play without tailwind, because tailwind boots are a little expensive these days. Most of them are like 3 exiles, maybe 4. So you can actually skip it, because our movement speed is more than enough. But attack speed also helps. So if you have the money, go for tailwind. Just try to put some life on it, a resist if you still need, and a movement speed, that's it. Or if you have any other good options, just go for another kind of boot. So I didn't bother enchanting my boot. This enchant is actually wrong. So you should get a stun avoidance if you have killed recently for mapping. It is the best for mapping, because assassin isn't stun immune, so that helps a lot. Because I sometimes get stunned a little, so that kind of boots enchant is probably your best choice. But for bossing, you want damage penetrates if you haven't killed recently. That is for only single target, obviously, but it is the best for DPS. But it is very hard to get it, because it is the most rare enchant in the game. So you can go for that if you want, or just get that stun avoidance and you are good to go. So let's talk about gems real quick, and you can skip this part if you want and just listen to the cluster jewels, because that will be the last thing I'm gonna explain in this guide. So you can just check it on Path of Building if you want the gems, but I will probably mention some stuff. First of all, explosive arrow. So this is the one that I'm using on my bow for single target, because if you get something like this, like my bow, you know, plus gems, something like that, that will be better for boss DPS, obviously. So that's why you should socket these in your bow for single target. Explosive arrow. I'm using a normal quality barrage support to stack your explosive arrow faster, obviously. Elemental damage with attacks. If you have the money, awakened ele damage attacks is actually very cheap. Something like 2 exiles for a level 5. So very cheap. I recommend you to get that as level 5, so you don't have to bother with leveling it. Inspiration. Anomalous is better because it has crit chance, but it is like 1 exalt, maybe 1.5, something like that. You can go for a normal one, or if you have that money, go for anomalous. Combustion. More fire damage. Ignite enemies have minus fire res, so overall very good gem. And lastly, empower. You can start with a level 3 if you want, if you don't have that much currency. Just go for level 4 later, or even use something else. If you don't have a 4 level, just check Path of Building. Maybe fire penetration is better for you, because level 3 and level 4 obviously 2 different gems. So maybe a fire penetration can be better for you. So just check Path of Building. That's it about single target setup. Let's talk about AoE. So it is on my carcass check, 6 link explosive arrow. I actually got a divergent one. It is level 20, because it is very hard to find 21 level on alternate quality gems. I use divergent because it has less skill effect duration, so I thought it will be a good idea because it will explode faster. So for maps, I obviously want my explosive arrow to explode very fast, so the mobs die instantly, you know, almost, let's say. So I picked a divergent one. You can go for that, or you can use less duration support instead of something else that I'm using. So don't forget that. So explosive arrow or divergent explosive arrow. Combustion again, fire penetration, GMP for clear speed. Elemental damage with attacks, I didn't even buy a vacant on this one, you can go for it if you have the money. And another inspiration. So again you can use less duration and use a normal explosive arrow maybe. So again just check path of building, you can figure it on your own because path of building tells you what you should use. Let's talk about the gems on my helmet. It can be on other piece, it doesn't have to be helmet obviously. Dash, I picked a divergent for, let's see, phasing, because I don't have phasing. If you play with a Farulfur, it gives phasing, I believe, so you can use a normal dash maybe. So I picked a divergent for phasing. Phasing is a buff that you can pass through enemies, so you don't get stuck. You don't get body blocked, let's say. It is very good. Second wind for that cooldown. I picked divergent for some life regeneration. It doesn't even important, just use something, any quality. Enhance. So that phasing lasts, normally phasing lasts 2 seconds. With enhance it is 4.4 seconds. So more than double. So very good. But we also need enhance for our last gem, Enemulus Assassin's Mark. So Assassin's Mark is my second curse. I already mentioned this on gears when I explained rings, I believe. So obviously Assassin's Mark gives a lot of DPS, crit chance, crit multiplier, and cursed enemies also take percentage damage because it is Anemulus. So I highly recommend getting an Anemulus one. With enhance it is even higher. Normally it is 4%, with enhance it is 8%. So very good DPS for bosses. You just want to cast this on big bosses, that's it. So gloves only has 3 sockets because the fourth one is a jewel socket, which we are using Murderous Eye. So the gems I am using Blood Rage. Do not link it because the other gems are Spell Totem and Wave of Conviction. Wave of Conviction is for bosses, for that minus 25 LR resist penetration. If you actually 3-link your gloves, you will actually summon a Blood Rage totem. What the fuck, right? It doesn't even do anything. It's so funny. So if your gloves are linked, just go to crafting bench and press 2-link socket, something like that, and change that link, because your gloves will be corrupted. You cannot change it manually. You need to use crafting bench. So do that. 2 linked and a separate one socket for that Blood Rage. Lastly, boots. Anger. This is our buff setup. Precision. If your hit is kept, because maybe you have hit chance, accuracy on your rings maybe, you can actually use a lower level precision and use that mana for something else. So I'm gonna mention this right now, it is very important. I actually don't use Flesh and Stone, but I highly recommend you to get it. I am actually planning to do that after the video. So your buffs should be Anger, Precision, and Flesh and Stone. And finally Enlighten, obviously. If you can get a level 4, it is even better. For my last buff right now, because I don't have Flesh and Stone, I totally forgot it. I am actually using Vitality for some life regeneration. So you should actually skip that and use Flesh and Stone again. I'm telling you, that is very important because that helps a lot with survival ability, because it blinds nearby enemies and it makes so much easier to face tank bosses. So you should absolutely use a Flesh and Stone. And that's about the gems. So let's talk about the cluster jewels I am using, because they are very important and they give a lot of DPS obviously. So I am using 2 different large clusters, and obviously I have medium and some small jewels in those. So let's start with large clusters. So this one has fire damage base 8 points obviously. Anything more than 8 means that you are gonna spend extra points. That's why you should buy 8. So widespread destruction as a suffix is probably the best, because it also gives AoE. But if you struggle getting it, just go for something else. So the other two, Burning Bright and Cremator. So you only want Cremator on one of your jewels, because this is how you explode the enemies. So there will be no corpse at all. So corpse explosion is very important for maps with, you know, those Act 5, I believe, no, not Act 5, Act 4 monsters that explode, you know, the corpses maybe. Also detonate that, Bamet, Beyond Boss, strong boxes with detonate. So corpse explosion is very important overall if you don't want to die to that. So this kind of stuff is very important overall. So I always try to get explode somewhere if I can on my builds. Burning Bright, fire damage, area effect. So there are other options obviously. You can also put Cremator on medium jewel, so don't forget that. So just try to get it from somewhere, that's it. I will probably list the other good stuff on large jewels, but some combinations are expensive. So try to get the cheapest if you cannot afford it. Most of them are like 1 or maybe 2 exiles, that's it. So medium. So if you don't have Cremators, just put a medium on somewhere. Just put it on medium, yeah. So I'm using fire damage over time multiplier bases. That is not actually the best for this build because this is not a dot build, but there are very good stuff in these jewels. That's why we are using it. So the most important one is Cooked Alive. Enemies ignited by you have -9, not 9, 10% fire resist. And other one is Smoking Remains. So the smoke cloud isn't that important, but this is the best thing you can get for DPS besides Cooked Alive. So Cooked Alive obviously for penetration the best, and there are also, let's see what else, Burning Bright, again fire damage, area of effect. The other medium is something else I'm gonna mention soon. So again I'm gonna list the good ones. Try to get, just read the screen and you will figure it out. Try to get the cheapest if other combinations are expensive. So again these are only maybe like 1 exalt, something like that. I paid that because yeah, that's why I am saying. But some combinations are very expensive, that's why I didn't buy them. I believe one of the large jewel combination was like 10 exalt and I was like, what the fuck is that? So that's why I am explaining this. So just try different combinations and find the cheap one. Yeah. So the other medium one that I'm using, where is it? Yeah. Area damage, cluster, magnifier, area effect, damage, crit multi, just for DPS and some clear speed, because it has area of effect, and vest power. Because we are playing an assassin, we have 4 power charges, so that means 12 area of effect. Again, it gives AoE and also area damage. So this is just for some AoE. You can actually get another fire jewel and get another Cooked Alive. So that's actually the best for DPS. I am using 3 medium jewels. 2 of them are fire based, the other one is area damage. So just use a mixture of those. If you want more boss DPS, obviously use the ones with fire damage, with Cooked Alive for that penetration. So small jewels, fatal obviously for life. You can put your missing stats on those fatals, resist, maybe strength if you need it. I didn't need anything, so that's why I put life, strength to maximize my life. Right now I have 5.5k almost. I only lost, I'm only away with 9 life. Yeah, you can say 5.5k life. So very good for an archer build actually. And let's talk about the other jewels. So rare jewels, obviously crit multiplier is your best choice. So try to get any of the combinations that I'm gonna list on the screen. So life, crit multiplier, attack speed is also good. And yeah, that's it. And finally Watcher's Eye. So because Watcher's Eye for this build is very cheap, it starts from 20-30 chaos. I bought a double Watcher's Eye for 5 exalts. So if you have maybe 5, maybe 7 exiles, something like that. There are lots of results similar to this. I will list all of the good double combinations on the screen, so you can buy a double no choose I easily because it is very cheap. No one plays fire builds. If you cannot afford a double, obviously go with one. They are like 30 chaos, nothing at all, just cheap, very cheap. And I believe that's it. I don't want to go any more details. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.